Greetings, I'm Squared here, and today we're going to talk about multiplying binomials. So we have two binomials. I'm going to show you three different methods, and then you get to decide which method you like the best. So again, we're going to try the horizontal method, the vertical method, and then I'm going to show you this method called the FOIL method, which some of you may remember. So the horizontal method, again, we use distributive property, but since we have a binomial out here, we have to use the distributive property twice. So we actually have to say x times 3x plus 7, because we need to multiply this x by everything in that parenthesis. And then we have to also multiply that negative 5 by everything in that parenthesis. So we end up doing the distributive property twice by splitting this up. You could split this one up too, but I always split this one up just to make it consistent. So now we go ahead and distribute. So x times 3x, you remember, and x times an x is x squared, and 1 times 3 is kind of like a 1 there. Some people like to put the 1 there. You don't have to, but some people like it. To remind them that there's a 1 as a coefficient, and also that there's 1x. 1x times 7 is 7x. And then we're done with the first parenthesis. Now we move on to distributing this one. So we say negative 5 times 3x is negative 15x. Negative 5 times 7 is negative 35. At this point, you see that there are like terms. Always check. There's not, did I really put a 3 there? I am so sorry. That is definitely not a 3. I hope I didn't say cubed. I thought I said squared, but I was thinking about the 3 probably. Okay, moving on. So a lot of times there's like terms that you need to combine. So you want to be careful. Not always, but a lot of the times, and probably most of the time in Algebra 1. So here we go. We want to combine those. So what is 7 minus 15? Well, we know that 7 plus 7 is 14, right? If you're not using a calculator, and that would be one more, so that would be an 8. So 7 minus 15 would be 8x. And then you combine like terms, and then your answer is a trinomial. Notice it's a quadratic trinomial. It's a quadratic because 2 is the biggest exponent. It's a trinomial because there's 3 terms. That's going to happen most of the time when you in class. It doesn't always happen, but in Algebra 1, it most of the time gets you a trinomial, a quadratic trinomial. Okay, so now we're going to try the vertical method. So for the vertical method, we write them on top of each other vertically, and then we multiply like we were used to when we were kids. Now, does it matter which one goes on the top? No. I mean, if you said, remember, multiplication is commutative. 15 times 10 is 150. 10 times 15 is 150. So it doesn't matter which one you put on the top at all. So now we're going to multiply, and we're going to put the like terms, just like when you were little and you put 27 times 4. You lined them up and you put the 1s in the 1s column and the 10s in the 10s column. We're going to do the 1s and the x's and the x squareds. So negative 5 times negative 1 is positive 5. Normally you wouldn't put positive 5, but because we're putting other terms next to it, we're going to need to do that. So we're going to put positive 5. So just like you would have said 4 times 7 is 28, and you would have carried the 2. We didn't have anything to carry, but next we go like this. 2 times 4 is 8, 9, 10. So there we go. So we're going to go 2x times negative 1. We're going to say negative 2x. Notice I wrote it next to it. Okay, let's say there was a 3 there and we were actually multiplying 27 by 34. What would you do now? Well, remember when we put a placeholder, because this is a 30. It looks like a 3, right? But it's in the tens place, so that's a 30 plus a 4. So when I say 7 times 3, that's what they tell you to say, but it's really 7 times 30. That's why you had to put that placeholder there. So when I say negative 5 times 4x, that's a negative 20x. It's got an x, so I know it goes in the x column, just like I know that would have gone there. So then we're done with that. And then we have 2x times 4x. That's 8x squared. And that goes in its own column. And then we just add, just like you would have done there. You would have added the 8 and the 0, the 1 and the 8, etc. So we're going to say 5 plus a negative 2 plus a negative 20, or minus 20 is negative 22x. And then 8x squared. So let me clean that up. 8x squared minus 22x plus 5 is our answer. Okay, so that's the vertical method. So we got a horizontal method, a vertical method, and now I'm going to show you a method called FOIL. So FOIL is an acronym, and this acronym stands for first, outers, inners, lasts is what I used to say. But F stands for the first terms in each parenthesis. So that would be the 3x and the 2x. it's just it's kind of distributive property like we did up there, but it's just a way to remember it. What do you have to multiply by what? So you have to remember you have to multiply the first terms together, then you have to multiply the outsides together. So that is just distributing. See how the 3x was just multiplied by both things in the second parentheses. And then the inside terms are the 4 and the 2x, and the outside terms are the 4 and the 5x. So it's really exactly like this horizontal one, except it gives us a nice little acronym so that we remember. So instead of writing it out like this in 2 sets of parentheses, it enables you to know that that's what you're doing, but to just say, oh, I have to multiply the first ones. Okay, that's 6x squared. And then I have to multiply the outside ones. Okay, that's 15x. Then the inside, that's 8x. Then the lasts, that's 20. And then you just clean it up. There were no negatives, so it's just going to be plus signs. 15 plus 8 is 23. Well, 15x plus 8x is 23x plus 20. Okay, so now you get to decide which way do you like. I am partial to this method because that's the method I use, so that's the one I do. And when you get really good at this, sometimes you kind of combine these while you're doing it. So I'll show you what I mean by that. So first, I would do 2x times x. That's 2x squared. And then I would say, oh, I've got a 7x there. I've got a negative 2x there. So in my mind, I just say, what's 7x minus 2x? Oh, that's 5x. That's how I do it. When you're first starting to learn this, you probably don't want to do that. You probably want to actually say 7x minus 2x and then combine them later. But as you get better at this, and if you're not good at your signs, you should never do that until you're good at your signs, so your plus and minuses. But that's just a simpler way to do that. It's kind of like a step up. So if you're really good with signs and you're good with holding numbers in your head, you do that. We'll try it again here. So 3x times 5x is 15x squared. I have a negative 10x and a negative 12x. What's that give me? Drum roll, please. 22x, right? We have a negative 10x. We have a negative 12x. That gets me a negative 22x. 2 times 4, negative times a negative, is positive, so that's 8. Okay. Ooh. Going over here now. So now we're multiplying binomials times trinomials. So again, we're going to use the horizontal method and the vertical method. For this one, I most always like the vertical method, just because I feel like there's just way too much, and it kind of gets long and trying to figure out my like terms. I like to add up my like terms in columns, but I'll show you both methods because you might like this one better. So again, I'm going to do this kind of fast because we've been doing it for a while. X times 3x squared is 3x cubed. X times 4x negative is 4x squared. Remember, I'm distributing, so I have to take that x times each term. And x times 10 is 10x. And I didn't show you this. I should have gone up like this. You don't have to do this. You can do what I just did. But that's x times this one, and then you have a negative 5 times the same thing. This is what I'm doing if you're a little confused. Okay, so now, see how I'm going to run out of room, so I'm going to have to kind of string it down. I guess you could write the next ones underneath, but I'm going to write it here. 15x squared, that's what I get there, plus, because a negative times a negative, 20x minus 50. And then we have to go and say, okay, we have a 3x cubed. There's no other x cubes. I kind of like to cross them out as I go. We have a 4x squared and a negative 15x squared. Gets me a negative 19x squared. I'm going to cross those out. A 10 plus a 20x, 10x plus 20x is 30x, and then I have a minus 50. And that's my answer. And now I'll show you the vertical method. Okay, so I'm going to write it down here, the binomial. I always like to write the trinomial on top if I have a trinomial times a binomial. So now I'm just going to go vertically. So 7 times 1 is 7. Negative 5x times 1 is negative 5x, and I forgot to put the plus sign there. Remember, we need that plus sign. Sometimes it's hard to remember that until you write the other term down. And then 4x squared times 1 is 4x squared. Now, when you multiply by 1, stop and think, right? Because sometimes you make mistakes. 1 shouldn't change anything. Do you see how I still have the 4x squared, the negative 5x, and the 7? Because if you multiply by 1, nothing should change. Now I'm going to multiply everything up there by the 2x. So 7 times 2x is 14x. That's what goes under the x column. And negative 5x times 2x is negative 10x. And then 4x squared times 2x is 8x cubed. And The reason I like the vertical method, like I said, is because everything's lined up. I don't have to go searching for like terms. I just know that that's an 8x cubed. That's a negative 6x squared. Did I forget the squared there? I sure did. Sorry about that. 14 minus 5 is 9. That's a positive 9x plus 7. Okay, so then in class I'm going to let you choose whichever method you want on that one. Of course, I like the vertical method, so I would do that one. I would say x squared plus 5x minus 6, 3x minus 1, so I get 6 minus 5x minus x squared. Notice that everything changed signs because I was multiplying this time by a negative 1. And then here I get negative 18x, positive 15x squared, and 3x cubed. And when I combine everything, I get 3x cubed plus 14x squared minus 23x plus 6. Yeah, so either way, and now the fun stuff. What if you're asked to find the area? So let's just remember that the area of a rectangle is base times height, or length times width. And this is the length, this is the width, or this is the height, the base and the height. Either way you want to think about it, but I'm multiplying. So I'm multiplying 7x plus 8 times 4x plus 3. So here we go, we're multiplying two binomials together. Okay, well remember how to do that. We have to multiply these ones together. 7, let's see, that's 28x squared. And then we have to multiply, that's 21x plus 32x plus 24. And these two are combinable. So really what we're doing is we're expressing the area as a polynomial, right? I mean, if we were, they're just giving you more practice on finding area, understanding how it is to multiply two binomials. Nobody is ever going to say what's the area of something and give you a trinomial. But we want to be able to practice two skills at once, so that's a nice way to do it. Now hopefully you can see that. That's a 3x minus 1 and that's a 2x. So this says find the area of the shaded region. Well, if I want to find the area of the shaded region, it's this whole big box minus this little part. So if I find the product of these two, the length times the width, and then I find the product of these two, the length times the width, I just need to subtract them. So that means I have a 3x times 12x minus 5 minus a 2x times 3x minus 1. So that's what I need to do. Make sure you know this is, you're subtracting this whole thing. So I'm going to talk about that in a minute. So first, let's multiply here. 3 times 12 is 36. X times x is x squared. And then I get a 15x. And then I'm subtracting all of this. So 6x squared minus 2x. So I have to subtract all those. So I'm going to distribute that negative. So I get negative 6x squared plus 2x. And then I combine these two. I get a negative 3x squared minus, what is that, 15. Did I write that down wrong? Did I forget a 36? Okay. Let me scribble that out. 36x squared times 6x squared is 30x squared. Then I get a negative 15 and a positive 2x. So that would be a negative 13x. There we go. Sorry for those little boo-boos. Okay, good luck with multiplying binomials. M squared, signing out.